Detroit Lions are coming off a bye week. They will host Washington. And Colin, here in a bit of a surprise, Detroit, for the first time in Lions history, they are the favorites to win the Super Bowl. Dan Campbell was asked how his team will handle the expectations.
We've had attention for 4 years here. I mean, there's been more stuff that's been made out, that's been built one way. We've been so good, we've been so bad. We're a laughing stock, now we're great. And it's just been this roller coaster of up and downs. And it's the next week of it. You know what I mean? And so this is nothing new that we're in right now. This is nothing new for me, for the coaches, for the players. We're in the middle of the circus, man, and it's about time to perform.
I love that. You know what? When you ask people, the noisier, I used to cover UNLV basketball with Jerry Tarkanian, rest in peace. And Jerry Tarkanian's teams were often battling with the NCAA. And I came to the conclusion, after watching it and covering it for 6 or 7 years, Jerry's team played better the more issues they had with outside exterior forces, is that Jerry was able to rally the team. It's us against the world, to the point where I think sometimes Jerry would he would criticize the team. And I think it was the first time I had watched it where the Rebels played better often when it was just noisy. And I think it gives coaches, Michael Jordan, after you win 3 straight, how do you get motivated?
Yeah, you make up stuff.
I mean, when Detroit was literally beating people like Alabama did during Saban's run in September, October. And then they had some injuries. And, we've watched the playoffs this past weekend. There is a gap between the really good and the good, like a big gap. So how do you keep a team motivated when you're a 9.5-point favorite? And I think there's sometimes, all this stuff about Detroit and losing people and Dan Campbell and his weird decisions. They are now so resilient because we're always poking holes in Detroit.
I do wonder, how much do you factor in the whole, everybody's talking to Aaron Glenn, everybody's talking to Ben Johnson.
I don't love it.
Distracted.
I don't love it.
I don't think Cliff Kingsbury doing any Aaron Glenn. Maybe 1 or 2.
I don't love it.
I don't even know who the Washington defensive coordinator is.
By the way, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, we were talking about Kevin O'Connell. People would trade a draft pick for him. They never played good after that. I don't like all the coaching stuff Well,
they had the win over the Packers. It was impressive. But I want to go back. Do you remember on this show where Dan Campbell's name got brought up among the best coaches in the league, and I was like, oh, yeah, he's like a bottom 10, bottom 5.
I don't remember you saying that, but it's certainly possible.
He's really done an amazing job the last year.
Well,
is he coach of the year, or is it Kevin O'Connell?
Here's where you have to give Dan Campbell credit. Look at the staff he's built. This is the best staff in football.
Well,
this is the thing about
he's building as much as the GM. It's probably a joint effort. Listen,
their staff is fantastic.
We saw Belichick struggle. Andy Reid has had not as big of struggles, but with guys poaching from his staff, there is going to be pullback and some change. I'm very curious if this is the year for Detroit. And then next year,
you know what the best Super Bowl is? It's Detroit against Buffalo.
Yeah.
Detroit and Buffalo will blow away every Super Bowl ratings record of all time.
Baltimore would probably be second, Lamar in the Super Bowl.
Right, but there's something about Detroit feels like the Cubs in shoulder pads. There is sort of the world's rooting for this lovable loser that's not a loser anymore. And I think Buffalo, because of you can go back to the Jim Kelly, Marv Levy days. You're like, can these guys get a break?
Yeah. Let's talk about this. There's a few things I really want to talk about here. The Detroit Lions, one, them being Super Bowl favorites, which is pretty exciting, pretty awesome. I didn't realize that. I thought it was the Kansas City Chiefs. I didn't realize that it was the Lions. Now, I want to talk about this line here, 9.5. That's fascinating. I want to talk about Dan Campbell and his coaching style and this idea that the Lions are these lovable losers. Because someone said this before in the comment section. This isn't mine, but I think it's really accurate. If you ever saw the movie Major League, it's like an older movie, and I feel like maybe whether you're a sports fan or maybe more of a baseball fan, you might have not seen it, but it's about the Cleveland. I don't even remember what team they're called now because it's a different name. the Cleveland Guardians and how bad they are and how they're able to kind of be a good team. It's a comedy, and I think that's kind of a fair comparison for the Detroit Lions. But they're definitely the team that it feels like the country wants to get behind, honestly, because I think what also who the Lions are, it's not confrontational. The Kansas City Chiefs are at the top, so they're going to have fans and haters. For whatever reason, the Bills and the Ravens, Lamar and Josh Allen, it's very controversial, those quarterbacks, in the sense of the conversations around them. It's very divisive. Lamar Jackson is great, but he can't win, and Josh Allen's amazing, but he's not as good as Patrick Mahomes. Like, there's this like constant battle among those quarterbacks. It's very much just ready to just go off in any second. That's been my experience, at least, just interacting in the comments as well. And the Lions don't seem to have that. It just seems like you have more people that are either neutral or supportive of the Lions rather than people that are actively against the Detroit Lions. People are constantly saying, just wait for Josh Allen will fail in the playoffs. Just wait, Lamar Jackson will fail in the playoffs. People aren't necessarily saying that about the Detroit Lions. That's, again, not my experience. Of course, there's going to be some people that are like, oh, they'll fail, but, that'll typically maybe be like Eagles fans or, maybe now Commanders fans this week and whatnot. So it just does feel that the nation is behind Detroit, which is pretty cool to see. I think it's also because they were on Hard Knocks on the more recent side as well. And it's how I've said this before, it's how I was really introduced to this team and why I really liked them. And I was like, oh, I'm rooting for Detroit Lions now. But with all that said, too, the other thing that I really want to highlight with Dan Campbell, because, he talked about we're in the middle of a circus and it's time to perform. What I love that he does is he embodies such a different version of this, too. There's kind of a saying, like, you can't control the ocean, but you can learn to surf the waves. And it's very true. It's kind of really kind of highlighting, like, you can't control what's happening around you. Like you can't control the emotions and of other people around you. You can't control what other people do around you. You just, there's too much in this world that is just really out of your control. You can't control the weather, man. You can't control how cold it's going to be. Is it going to rain? Is it going to snow? Like, you can't control it, but you can learn, again, to be adaptable. You can learn to kind of embrace it and accept it, because especially when you're younger, you try to reject these things, or you try to like hate these things. I hate the rain. And it's like, if you hate the rain and you live in an area where it rains, like, you then, like, that's a rough way to live your life, man. Like, that's just rough. Just learn to grab an umbrella, put a jacket on, or learn to be like, oh, it's raining, this is cool. It doesn't rain all the time. I like when it rains. Like, you gotta learn to surf the waves. And I think Dan Campbell does that so perfectly, where he's like, he doesn't try to reject the circus. He doesn't try to squash it. He doesn't try to control the media. He doesn't try to control the narratives. He doesn't do that. He just kind of accepts it. And he embraces it, and then he uses it for that fire. Like, it's very much, this is going to be a cheesy example, but it very much is kind of like a Marvel superhero movie, where it's like, at one point, the good guy's getting like crushed by the bad guy and keeps getting hit with some sort of, I don't know, a power crystal or whatever. And then eventually the good guy's like able to like harness that and like turn it around and then push it back on the villain. We've seen that like 10,000 times, in superhero movies. And that's what it feels like. It's like you're taking all of this chaos and you're just like getting it back. You're controlling, and you're like, all right, now it's my turn. And they just are able to push it back, and that's what they do. And it's awesome. I find it, legitimately inspiring, and I think they just embody that. Every single player, every single coach, every single soundbite that comes out of here. We're in the middle of the circus, and it's time to perform. That's it's just awesome. That alone is an awesome saying. I really love it, and I identify with it. I really, really do. And I think this team is really going to benefit from the bye, not only just because they get to rest up, they get to take a break and a beat, but also from the standpoint of just that people forget who the Lions are. Like, this line right here, I find shocking. 9.5. Listen, I have no idea what line should be. I'm not going to act like I have any idea. People always try to, share their opinions of like, it should be 6.5, not 7.5. And it's like, if you say so, if you're comfortable and confident in making lines like that, be my guest. I have no idea what a line should be. I could see this game going in many different directions, like, honestly, majority of the playoff games right now. To me, the biggest question still remains the Lions defense. I think they've been able to overcome, and it's been incredibly impressive. But when you look at the teams like the Packers, like so much of that is built now on beating the Packers and the Lions, the Vikings, two teams that completely fell apart at the end of the season, especially offensively. The Commanders are not that right now, and Jaden Daniels is a high level quarterback. I do think the Lions should be able to win this game, and they should be able to win this game convincingly. But if there is any true defects in the defense, which again, I know they're getting healthier, I know they're getting better and all of that, and so I'm not discounting them. I'm the one that defended them when all the injuries to their defense happened. But if there is something to be exposed out of all the teams that the Lions have played recently, it would be the Commanders, because I think you even saw that to a degree with the Buffalo Bills, and that's Josh Allen. I think obviously Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills, are a better offense than Jaden Daniels and the Commanders, so you might get like a light version of that. And so to me, it'll be like the real thing is like I imagine that the Lions will be able to also aggressively get after the Commanders defense, because I mean the Lions offense is just suffocating. I mean it's just an absolute just dominant force to be reckoned with. So I imagine this will be a more high scoring game. So it's just gonna be interesting to me to see, can the Lions disrupt Jaden Daniels. I think the crowd's going to be insane. I think this is going to be a significantly harder game on the road for Jaden Daniels and the Commanders compared to going down to Tampa, dealing with Baker Mayfield, and that Bucs offense is just going to be so much more different than the Lions. So I think the Lions are in a position to cover that spread and take care of business. But I also just wouldn't be surprised if the Commanders kind of give them a run for their money. But it is hard to imagine that if you're looking at such a young quarterback and a younger team like the Commanders in terms of lack of success, of our true playoff success, and compare that to what the Lions can do offensively, it just seems like if you are going blow for blow, that the Commanders should break first. They should waver first. They should have that tough 3-and-out on their own 20, whereas the Lions are able to go for it on 4th and 3 and convert on their own 40. Like it's just that's what I would imagine happening. But we see crazy stuff happen in the playoffs all the time. So if you're a Lions fan, I would say definitely be confident, and you should feel like, hey, we're in control of this. This is our game to lose, because I think that's true. But I also wouldn't just immediately just say the Commanders have no chance either. They're not good. Get out of here. So I'm really, really, really excited for this game, no matter how it unfolds. Even if it's a blowout in any direction, I'm all for this game. I'm pumped. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Detroit Lions? Kind of how their season is unfolding right now at this point, coming off the bye, going into the playoffs. There hasn't been obviously a lot of Lions content right now because of the bye, so curious how you guys are all feeling a week removed from all of this, and essentially just a few days, I mean, it's playoffs now, right? Like this is when all of the games before didn't matter, now they do. So where are you at? What's your mentality? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.